welcome everyone to episode 193 of the DynaCatz podcast. I'm your host, Caleb Peng. I'm joined by not Steve yet. Maybe we'll
Josh.
see. Not Josh. Not no Aussies today.
Not
so
who
far.
is
We'll
Josh.
See. Well, who is Josh might be tuning in today though. But we are joined by HurricaneKaz and Twastell, fresh off of the Vancouver Regional, and Steve may be joining us in a little bit. It is kind of early on his end, and
in fairness, he did tell us last time when we were all like running late. He was like, "I'm just gonna sleep in next time and assume I missed nothing." So.
Yeah, well, to be fair, we didn't even run late. We just rescheduled for today, so that's why. So we are recording this on March 14th, which probably is for the best because there's some Niantic Scopely announcement that came out.
I'm sure you've all heard about it before.
Yeah, and if not, you will hear our take and stuff.
Listen, I told you guys, even my mom heard about it and messaged me. So, like, if anyone in the actual like Pokemon GO player base has not heard about it, like, they don't play anymore.
No, my mom needs to step it up. I didn't get a text like that.
I don't either. I called my mom a few hours ago and she didn't pick up. So, she's probably just busy. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
she's
I know for
Steve
too.
Life.
Like, we changed our clocks, so we're like an extra hour offset from him. So it's like gotten even earlier for him. I'm pretty sure. So.
Oh, you think there's a chance that he like might have messed up? I don't know. He was very cognizant of the fact that we were like an hour.
He knows the time. I'm just saying like the time is different Discord though. Stamp. But anyways,
yeah, we're trying to make excuses for the guy that did not show up. So, but if he comes, obviously you'll hear from him. He'll join in. Before we get into this episode, my apologies. Last episode, like I said, Steve's recording was missing like 8 minutes at some point when Tristan was on, and because I was so focused on that, I didn't adjust Tristan's audio as well. I think it looked good on timeline, so I didn't listen through like all of it, and that's why if you listen to the last episode, it sounds like we're talking over each other or there's like large gaps in between. Well, technically that's what we usually experience on delay end, but usually what I do is I adjust it in the podcast so that it doesn't sound as rough. So that's on me. So it's not Tristan's fault or anything like that. But you know, I was trying to put out one fire, and then those the standard fire that was also still there. So hopefully this episode will be better. But anyway, that's my apologies. I'll do better on the hopefully this one and future episodes. Anyway, we have a bunch of events and stuff to cover, so let's talk about that. We got Vancouver, Fortaleza, the Broly tournaments, and some other stuff to cover. So we're just dive into it because
we got a jam-packed episode for you guys.
Yeah. We sure do. It's the DynaCatz are back, and Dynamax Raikou is making his debut at Max Battle Weekend. Hey, honestly, that's also a cat too. So if anything, this really is a DynaCatz event.
This is truly the best excuse for the DynaCatz that we have ever.
Yeah, that and Entei.
If you need a thumbnail idea, Kaz.
Always happy to have an obvious one.
Yeah, we'll see if she listened to Tristan's suggestion or not, because by the time you see this episode, it's already you'll know.
Listen, anything is better for our YouTube enjoyers over the 3 weeks of Corviknight that I did.
You know, I've seen more Corviknight thumbnails than actual Corviknight encounters in this game. You know, that's accessibility is an issue for this game. Anyway, so we have the Dynamax Raikou making its Max Battle Weekend. It is this Saturday and Sunday, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Pretty much just the duration of Dynamax Gigantamax spawn time frames. And it could be shiny, of course. There's some event bonuses. Max Particle Collection limit increases to 1,600. 1/4 adventuring distance to receive max particles. Power spots will refresh more frequently. 8 times max particles from power spots. And then these will be bonuses from the 10th, which is 4 days ago, until Sunday, which is 3/4 max particles cost for unlocking and powering up max moves. Interesting.
Yeah, I think these are all really
power stuff.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like all these changes because it makes it easier for people to get the particles like during the weekend. So it's not like you meet up with a group and you do one max battle and then you're all like going all over the place trying to get enough particles to do a second one. Like they made it easier to do that. And then they're also making it easier to get those moves so that people can be a little more prepared. And then on top of
Mhm.
that, they also have this Dynamax Raikou Max Battle Weekend Time to Research, which I think is a really cool idea to help people prepare for it. So there's different tasks like collecting max particles, winning max battles, catching max Pokemon, leveling up a max move 3 times, unlocking a max move, different stuff like that. And so some of these rewards are giving additional max particles, or I think there's also one that gives an encounter with a Dynamax Drillbur, some Drillbur candies, I think some Drillbur XLs even. So I think it's a really cool research in order to help encourage players to sort of invest a little bit more preparing for the event and giving them those resources to help them invest and help them offset some of those costs. Um, so I think that's a pretty cool research. And I hope they
Yeah,
do.
I think this one lasted longer than the one because we got something similar for the birds, Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres, but I feel like the time frame was a lot shorter. And not just like them only being like available in a concentrated like bit on Max Mondays, but like the research itself, I feel like you only had like 3 days to complete, whereas
I think
this
you're
one has been
right.
all week,
Yeah,
which
I
is
think the
really
research.
really nice.
I think the previous one was like just the prior weekend. It was like Friday through Sunday for max battles happening the following Saturday and Sunday or something. But yeah, this one is like basically a whole week, which is nice.
Because
So yeah.
for the birds, the Max Monday was the debut, whereas
Oh, it
this
was
one
Max
you have like
Monday. Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Right.
whereas
So
this one starts on like a whole, and you have like a whole weekend that is going to be
right.
available as a more concentrated like spawn.
Yeah, because my research says there's 2 days and 8 hours left. So if today's Friday, it looks like it goes through the end of Sunday. So you can even finish this research over the weekend. So yeah, big fan of this research. Again, I like that they're sort of encouraging and incentivizing and helping people to sort of prepare their teams better. Um, and honestly, I was thinking it would be cool if they had some sort of a similar equivalent for PvP, maybe for like a Go Battle Week or something, with some tasks encouraging people to power up and unlock second moves on Pokemon and giving them some maybe Stardust and candies and other stuff back. I think that could be a cool addition as well, sort of building off of this idea, but big fan of this
Oh
idea in
yeah,
general.
like maybe instead of because we always have research that's available on like the Go Battle Day or the Go Battle Week or whatever when it starts. That like that's like when the event starts, but if you had something that was like in advance of it so that maybe people were a little more prepared like when you actually have more battles to do, that would be pretty cool.
Right, like give people some charge teams and Stardust so that they have the resources to like build a few, like a line of 3 or whatever. Because like
Yeah.
I think a lot of players don't even bother because they don't have the resources or want to invest the resources. So something is
Or
similar
know
like
what
this.
Pokemon are good,
True.
so
So yeah, I think there's a
mittens,
lot of
you don't
potential
agree?
there for PvP as well. Um, but yeah, anything else for this event?
Nothing too wild. I will say too, the nice part about all these Dynamax legendaries that we get is that you still get XL candies when you catch them, right? So even if you're not a big fan of the Dynamax system or Gigantamax system, all that stuff, personally, I still think it's worthwhile to do if you have the time to and you have the people to do it.
You get a lot of XP and Stardust as
Mhm.
well. So just like, I mean, it's if you have the time and resources to do it or find a
Hmm.
group that's doing it, like I do think that they're kind of beneficial for other reasons,
Hmm.
even if some parts of the experience are
Right,
frustrating.
and not
Yeah.
only are you getting the XLs, you're getting the Pokemon too. So like, if again, not that
Yeah.
like Raikou's
I mean,
particularly good in
in
Master
theory,
League.
if you catch it.
Sure, you have to catch it, but like, not that like Raikou's particularly good in Master League, but like, say it was, it would be another opportunity to maybe get a hundo or even something that you can lucky trade later and try to get a good one for raids or Master League
Also,
or whatever. So like,
we don't know when Raging Bolt comes out, which is the Paradox form of it. Do they share the same resources, the same candies? Maybe.
Well,
they're
Maybe
not.
not.
They're
Yeah,
different
I
deck
know.
entries.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's very true.
Yeah, it
I
could be
will
just
say,
another raid thing.
I do
Scopely
have.
might have came in just in time, if you know
Oh,
what
no.
I'm saying.
No. Here's
I
the
will
thing,
s-
though.
I will
Wiglet,
say-
Wiglet has its own candy separate from Diglett.
That's true.
Yeah, but Wiglet's not the Paradox form of Diglett, right?
It's like it's not even a regional variant. It's like I think they literally described it as like convergent evolution. You know, when two things that are kind of the same like evolve in two separate. Like
I don't think we have there's not a Paradox form Pokemon in the game yet for us to compare to my knowledge, but
yeah. The last thing I'll say about Dynamax Raikou is like the thing that I liked about the birds was they had a debut of like on Max Monday, so you had a limited time where you were kind of like guaranteed to only see those Dynamax battles. This seems like with a longer time frame, this seems like going back to kind of the frustration I had when they released the Kanto Gigantamax evolutions, because it's a little bit harder to organize when you don't have like when you could literally just like go anywhere at any time over the weekend. I think it's a little bit harder for people to kind of like coalesce, especially since this one it does require a little bit more teamwork because there are only 4 battlers allowed. Like with the birds, it's not like a Gigantamax where you have up to 40.
Right.
Yep.
That's my only gripe. Like I think the way that they introduced the birds was actually helpful to get people to do them. This one being a little bit looser, I don't know. I'm sure that people are still planning events or whatnot, but seems a little bit more difficult to get everyone together in a limited time
or
frame.
even if they
lasts all
did it
weekend.
right, or even if they did it like the Elite Raid format where they were like Dynamax Raikou will be in Dynamax battles on Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 3 p.m., and 5 p.m. or something, and then there'd be like a more limited
an hour.
Right, a more limited times to sort of push people together more. But that's an interesting part.
No.
But the research was good. It was good. You're right about that, Tristan.
Yeah.
Ooh, can I take this next one since it involves a bird?
You sure may.
So we also have on Sunday the Catch Mastery event, Sunday, March 16th from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. local time. Wild encounters, the following Pokemon will appear more frequently. Omanyte and Kabuto, both are available to be shiny. Event bonuses, increased chance of encountering shiny Omanyte, shiny Kabuto, shiny Archon, my little dinosaur bird, and 2 times XP for successfully catching Pokemon with nice throws or better. 2 times XP for successfully catching Pokemon with curveball throws. That's a lot of potential XP there.
Sure is.
Field research task encounters focus on your Pokeball throwing accuracy. Archon will be available to encounter as you complete these field research tasks, and if you're lucky, you may encounter a shiny one. There's also, of course, timed research that will be available. Catching rock-type Pokemon that will be available throughout the event. Complete 10 sets of research tasks to encounter 40 Archon in total, and you'll have an increased chance of encountering shiny Archon, apparently, from this timed research. This is how I get my second one, so I can finally evolve it and have the whole family. Paid time research also, of course, will be available for $2 or equivalent pricing in your local currency, which will give 40 additional Archon encounters, as well as other
So are you going to go for the paid, Kaz?
You know I'm going to. If there's a bird involved, I got to. Those are the rules.
Wait, is Archon a bird?
People might be playing and listening to this. Is that again?
I said, is Archon a bird, actually?
It's the first bird, Tristan. Come on.
What about Aerodactyl? Isn't Aerodactyl the first bird?
Of the first bird.
I mean, it's not It's not Professor Caleb or Caleb's Corner. I'm just throwing out questions. I don't
I
know.
know.
I'm
And
just
I
asking.
answered you.
I'm just
I
asking the
answered
questions.
you. It's one.
Anyway, yeah, people might be playing this event right as they're listening to this right now.
They're listening to this podcast. So
But
I hope that Professor Kaz has now brought you your shiny bird encounter.
dang, Professor Kaz too. I feel like I'm back in college. Anyway, that's a little fun event for people, especially the bird lovers. We have ourselves another event, which is only a few days later too. Starts this upcoming Wednesday to the following Monday. Deep Depths, and it is Wednesday at 10 a.m. March 19th to Monday 24th 8 p.m. Okay, we have a debut of Pokemon too. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the event bonus. 1/2 egg hatch distance when eggs are placed in an incubator during the event. Increased chance to encounter and hatch shiny Clauncher. Clauncher has been out before, obviously, but I think it was orange.
I think it's like pink. Like it looks like more like a real shrimp.
Oh, I was thinking like, it's like more like cooked, because shrimp is like pretty much blue a lot of times, right? Like when they're not cooked.
When they're not cooked, they really look gray and gross, honestly. And they look like that in the wild too, because like I used to go kayaking a lot when I lived on the coast, and you would have sometimes shrimp just jumping into your boat, and it was like so disgusting looking.
Yeah, Cat's like the only solution here is to cook them, right?
Yeah.
But
I love cooked shrimp.
Sorry for the vegetarians and vegans listening to this. Wild Encounters. We do have the debut of Nickit, the fox Pokemon, and its evolution Thievul. And you use 50 candies to evolve it into Thievul. And Pokemon certain Pokemon will be spawning more in the wild. Murkrow, Sneasel, Corphish, Clamperl, Purloin, female Frillish, not male Frillish, and Clauncher. And then on the more rare end, Nickit, if you're lucky. Luckily, they're not in like tasks or raids only or stuff like that. So I'm glad
I
they
was
are
gonna say,
spawning.
I'm glad that like as you scroll down, you get to see like, yes, we do finally get a new Pokemon that's in the wild.
Yeah, and then 7-kilometer eggs as well during this time. This is actually not a terrible list either. Nickit, Clauncher, obviously the part of the fan. Pawniard, I don't know why. And then we have Galarian Corsola is staying in the egg. So that's good because it encourages people to still want to hatch them for the Galarian Corsola. But hey, worst case scenario, you get like a Nickit or something, and that's not too bad either. I mean, actually, worst case scenario is probably get a Pawniard or Clauncher. But
Pawniard
does not. The Clauncher can be shiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good the Pawniard, yeah. Except for the Nickit.
Shiny, yeah, they all can be shiny except for the new Pokemon. And arguably, I think the like least useful one is probably the Clauncher. Just because there's
probably.
like
I don't think the Nickit is very useful. Or Thievul.
Oh yeah. Whatever. Well, I know we're probably not going to have a lot of time for Professor Tristan, but is there any updates on like its typing or anything? Like anything that makes it particularly interesting?
It's just the mono
just pure dark type. Okay.
I mean, I feel like the trend these days is if it's not particularly useful, it gets a wild release sometimes, and if it has potentially more utility, it's in tasks or raids or eggs.
Yeah, they know how to make us sweat for it.
Okay, and then time research stuff. Interesting enough, there was 10 cup food candy, 1 mysterious component, encounters with themed Pokemon, 2 times Stardust for catching Pokemon after completing the time research, and more. That's an interesting update too. I feel like we've been seeing more of these. Once you finish the time research, you get a bonus, which I don't hate as long as it's not like making you do like 10 raids or some random stuff like that. But
yeah, as long as the tasks that you're doing are like sort of easy enough to complete, I think, like in a timely period. Like sometimes it's like, you want us to do what in what? No.
Yeah, the last one was like win 3 raids, which I feel like is borderline. I was just able to get through them quicker because I was in Vancouver, so there's a bunch of raids popping up near me. But like normally I wouldn't have that same luxury and would maybe have to.
I wouldn't be surprised if they go that route again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's hope they don't, but I wouldn't be super surprised. Again, though, I don't hate it. Like, we already have the half hatch distance bonus, and like if they just give us double dust after completing something, it's not. I don't know. I don't think it's a worst case scenario, but that is something to know.
kind of an interesting model just to like give extra bonuses once you finish the research, and it's sort of like if you don't finish it, it's okay, but if you do, you get an extra little something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a paid ticket thing. Nothing too crazy on that one. And then, yeah, that's about it. So be on the lookout for a new debut Pokemon. I don't think it's anything like a spectacular event by any means in terms of spawns and stuff, especially given that Nickit is not, or Thievul probably won't be the next meta Pokemon. But the bonuses are okay. So I will say that. Half hatch
sure.
distance has been nice too, because I've been actually trying to hatch more Galarian Corsola. I've traded all mine that I already previously hatched. So trying my best to finally get a Pokemon that's been nerfed. But we'll see. I never got experience as full power, but that's fine. I didn't compete in any major tournaments at least during the time frame, so I'm not too miffed about it. Okay, that being said,
I'm just waiting for the next event we go through that doesn't have a paid ticket. When is that going to be?
Never.
I swear every single
Never.
event has a paid ticket.
I don't think it's a bad thing though, because
no, I don't. I just think it's funny.
Yeah.
No, usually they're like inconsequential, and it's like if you want a little more or something, go for it. But most people are fine to skip it.
They won't need a little bit more too after this recent acquisition, you know. So gotta help cover some of these spending funds. But we'll talk about that after the championship series, which we have Vancouver and Fortaleza were the two tournaments. Do you want to cover the Vancouver one first or Fortaleza?
Let's do Fortaleza. That happened first. So. It happened first, so we'll cover it first.
Fortaleza it is. We have Fortaleza, which took place in Brazil, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Mm-hmm.
And man, this the Brazilians are pretty consistent. Not going to lie. I mean, 7-11 players consistent as well, but the Brazilians pretty consistent in their regional runs. We have Corlash, who won. Oh, and Desync too. Yeah. I mean, Desync.
He's not Brazilian, but he's always like in the top like 5 or something. I swear.
He's on the graphics. I don't know if any 7-11 people went to this tournament or not, but they didn't make top 8 for this one at least. But they LNDS Corlash won the regional, and was he like a back-to-back champion or something? He won something else too, right?
Yeah.
He won the last one.
Back-to-back. At least the last South American one. Because I think there might have been like a Mexican regional in between, but like I think he won the like back-to-back like Brazilian regionals or something like that.
Yeah, because Rio was the other one, which was back in January.
Interesting enough, his Dracoviz profile is just Corlash. It's not LNDS Corlash. Why is that the thing? Weird. Anyway, so one Rio de Janeiro, and funny enough, it was also against LNDS Hardjeff. So Hardjeff is a back-to-back second place finisher. Man, he's going to get more second places than I did in the span of like 2 months compared for my whole career. But Hardjeff gets that second place, which is also very, very consistent from his end as well. He lost Corlash in the winners finals, and then made it back to the grand finals, reset the bracket, but then lost again to Corlash in the bracket reset. But that's a lot of games I think they played, right? Yeah, it was. Yeah, went to game 5 in winners finals, goes 3-1 to reset the bracket, and then Corlash goes 3-0 to finish it off. So it kind of reminds me of EUIC's like how EUIC took place actually.
Mm-hmm.
That record looks eerily similar because Potamon. Wait, wasn't that like exactly the same results? Didn't Potamon? So Potamon went 3-2 in the winners finals against
Zweilous.
Zweilous.
And then he got
he got 3-0 and he 3-1. Yeah, so it's slightly different on the bracket reset thing. Hardjeff 3-1 and then got 3-0. But yeah, very eerily similar set results from those tournaments. I don't know. It has absolutely nothing to do with this tournament. Anyway, let's get into the actual teams. Corlash had this is the Broly halfway tournaments because these metas are very unique and will probably never see again. Actually, it's the odds of this exact meta happening again is like I think like near impossible based on
It is
Yeah.
impossible
how
because you'll have new releases and new moves and stuff.
yeah
Like
yeah
it's
yeah
just
yeah
not.
yeah. So it's actually impossible for us to ever have the same meta again, because for the rules for the championship series, you can't use a Pokemon that's has like a new move added or whatever until the following Tuesday. And so because these moves are added, I don't know. Anyway, based on the timeline, you just couldn't. All right, just take my word for it.
Like you couldn't use Psywave Lapras.
Yeah.
Right,
You know,
and you
or
couldn't use
roll
like,
but you
out
could
Blastoise. You
and you
know.
but you
couldn't
could
use
use
Rock
Aqua
Tomb
Jet Golisopod.
Daily, but you can use stuff
Mhm.
that got buffed. So you could use Rock Tomb Fortress or Aqua Jet
Mhm.
Yes.
Golisopod, and this
Apparently,
top,
Which we do see.
it's apparently pronounced Golisopod, which I hate.
Ugh.
But I'm pretty sure that's the official pronunciation. So just keep that in mind. Anyway,
you keep that in
there's
mind. You're the official commentator. We're not.
well, I'm letting you all know I'm not just mispronouncing it for any reason. Anyway, a lot of Glycopods. 7 out of 8. What the heck? Crazy. Paulina's the only one not ready. You know, Paulina's has the Spice Runner, and it's funny how Paulina's is the one person not even to run Glycopod, even though Glycopod has never won a tournament until this weekend. And there were 7 out of 8. Like somehow Paulina's knew that was going to be the meta pick and still went anti-meta. But crazy stuff. Interesting teams though. Corlash ran Dugong, Gastrodon, Steelix, Shadow Drapion, Shadow Jumpluff, Golisopod, and the Harjeff ran the Dugong, Gastrodon, Goodra. What the heck is that doing here? Fortress, Emolga, and Golisopod. The Emolga also got buffed with the Discharge and Acrobatics change, but
Mhm.
it had it before, so obviously you could use it. And then Desync to round it out of the top 3 had Alolan Sandslash, Shadow Quagsire. I feel like one of his favorite Pokemon to run. Annihilate, Morpeko, Jumpluff, Shadow Jumpluff, and Golisopod.
And I'm
We don't have footage
curious.
of this tournament
I
though.
think some of the people that ran Shadow Jumpluff were actually running the double flying move set, if I remember correctly, with Aerial Ace Acrobatics and not running the Energy Ball.
We can see it actually. Let's take a look. Yeah, the what do you call it?
Yeah, that
Corlash was for sure.
And Desync was as well.
Desync was as well. Okay.
What about Kanon?
Yeah.
Kanon was as well.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I believe we'll get to it later, but I believe Rice was as well.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned it last week how now the pacing of acrobatics plus 2 40 energy moves, either discharge or aerial ace, you can go that fits perfectly with the Thundershock Fairy Wind pacing. So it sort of makes sense from an energy efficiency standpoint. And I think some people were telling me that because I don't think the energy ball, I think you need 2 energy balls to knock out an Azumarill anyways. And I think probably could Diggersby as well. And I think the Shadow with acrobatics can potentially 2-shot anyways. I don't know those matchups super well, but I think that's sort of why it can work, is because the acrobatics just hits harder neutrally and can sort of make up for that super effective a little bit. And then, like I said, that pacing works out really nicely. And the flying is just a better offensive typing in the current meta, because there's not a lot of things that resist flying, resist flying more than they resist grass. There's some things that resist both, like an Alolan Sandslash or something,
Steelix.
But a lot of things.
Well, Steelix doesn't resist grass.
Right, Steelix would be the one thing that you would want the energy ball for, but for the most part, at least as far as resistances go, they're either resisted equally or grass gets resisted more. Like Emolga resists both. So against an Emolga, you'd rather just throw the better acrobatics. So it does make some sense, at least in this one-off meta. I'm not sure if that'll be the play going forward or not, especially with a lot of other water types coming to the meta, like Blastoise and Lapras. You might want that energy ball again, but for this one-off meta, that seemed like the play. And yeah, their top usage for their day 2 was pretty interesting. Like Caleb said, 7 out of 8 teams had the Golisopod. I think 6 out of 8 teams had Gudra, which is wild. That came out of nowhere. And then Gastrodon on 50% of teams. And then Azumarill was tied in usage with things like Dugong, Fortress, Shadow Jumpluff, and Shadow Galarian Weezing. So like definitely like a mix of new and old, because like we still have the Azumarill and the Drapion here in the top usage, but like a lot of the other top usage stuff dropping out in favor of stuff like the Golisopod, the Fortress, the Jumpluff, I guess Jumpluff is sort of old but also buffed, and the Galarian Weezing. And I forgot to mention this last week because again I was sick and not 100%, but I mentioned to you guys after in DMs that I thought Fortress was going to be a potentially good pick because I felt like it could beat a lot of the expected top meta, and Rajif sort of proved that, getting second place with the Fortress. I think that was kind of an interesting pick there. So yeah, and I think the Golisopod 2 makes sense because I think people were predicting Dugong to be good because they were with rollout nerf. Dugong gets a little better, and people were expecting Annihilate to drop off because of some of the other changes. So Dugong gets a lot better and a lot safer, and the Golisopod is one of the better Dugong answers, and also takes advantage of that buffed Aqua Jet.
Yeah, it's. I think without Drowan though, and given how prominent Dugong is in both tournaments, I think the Drowan was pretty necessary. But Aqua Jet could have been an interesting.
Oh, I was talking about the Aqua Jet on the Golisopod.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I thought you mentioned Dugong for some reason. Maybe I just.
No, I did. I mentioned Golisopod for maybe I just misspoke slightly, but I meant like the Golisopod counters the Dugong, but Golisopod also benefited from the Aqua Jet buff. Is what I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Aqua Jet is an interesting wrinkle, but I don't think it made sense for that weekend because I think if you predict Dugong usage to be high, you don't want to drop the drill run for the mirror, like you said.
I guess also the odds of you ever running drill run or Aqua Jet on Dugong is pretty low because if it's actually good, Dugong's actually good enough to be meta, then you would never run it because you always need drill run from the mirror. And then if it's not meta and you run Aqua Jet, that's fine, but I don't know, then it might not be that good in general to even run. It's just like one of those like weird situations where it's just like, it's like almost like not running a ghost move on Nidleap, right? It's just like not a good idea, even if the ghost move isn't always the best because you just lose coverage in the head-to-head, and that's never ideal. But I don't know. As a guy that used to run Ice Punch and Iron Punch Medicham when everyone was running Psychic Medicham, maybe I shouldn't be the one to speak too much on that, but
maybe let the professor handle it, Caleb.
Hey, I made that Iron Punch Medicham work. In both the tournaments I ran it. I'm just saying. This is my
if you want,
my only regret is I didn't run
second place, Caleb's your guy. Follow his advice,
dude. I'd take third place at this rate. Third or fourth place. I'll take a top 8. I can't be too picky about it this. Anyway, so big congrats to Korlash for the back-to-back wins. Harjeff for the back-to-back second place, who also has already won a tournament this year. But yeah, those two super consistent. Obviously, a lot of the other people in this bracket also consistent too. But sure, if Korlash wins a third tournament back to back, that's setting some records right there for sure.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
It's setting some major records. But
do they? Are there more? Do we have more Brazilian regionals left?
I'm not fully sure, but there should.
I don't think
there's gonna be some South American
Santiago.
ones.
Yeah, there's Santiago. It looks like we have Monterrey and Santiago are the 2 Latin ones left. Yeah. So
maybe Santiago.
Maybe he's got his eyes set on Santiago.
Anyway, okay, so we had another tournament as well. It was Vancouver. So let's have Tristan talk about that one because you were at it. Had first person perspective on that tournament.
I didn't actually see very many of the battles, I have to say, for a couple of reasons. First off is they've actually started doing this the last couple NA regionals. Is they're now sending out call times the night before, sort of like what they have done for ICs as well.
Oh, that's good. That's a
I was
good
gonna
change.
say, like, for regionals, that's really nice.
Yeah, it's been, I think this is like the second or third, because I heard they were doing it in Europe already, but this is like the second or third NA regional they've started doing it, which is super nice. So I think my call time was like 12:30 or something, which was super nice, or no, maybe 12:15. But that was nice because it meant that I could sleep in a little more and get some more rest. Um, and then I rolled up to the venue and played my matches. The only unfortunate thing about having that later time was I didn't really get to play much of the Fight Coco Community Day. So during Community Day, I got a grand total of 1 shiny, and it wasn't even a Fight Coco; it was a Volibee. Nice. But I lucked out. I got my first shiny Fight Coco from the timed research thingy, like a day or two ago.
Was it one with the background?
No, it wasn't at the background. That was a little bit of a bummer, but just getting a shiny was nice because I missed out during Community Day. But yeah, so I didn't see much of the battles on Saturday because I was sleeping and resting up, and then was just busy playing my battles for most of the rest of the day. And then Sunday I missed it because I competed in the Go Cup, and then after that finished, I saw a couple battles, and then I competed. They had a TCG Pocket side events, and so I competed in a TCG Pocket side event. That was pretty fun. And I heard they're having TCG Pocket side event in Stockholm as well, so hopefully they're doing those at all the regionals going forward, because I thought it was a lot of fun. And look forward, fingers crossed they'll have it in Atlanta and Portland as well. Because I enjoyed
How
that.
many were in the TCG side event? Pockets side
Pocket,
event?
I think it was like, it was somewhere between 20 and 30 people. I don't remember the exact number, but like it was a decent size.
Okay. Steve will be joining us in a second, so we'll see how that goes. Oh wait, it looks like he's about to hop in mid call. I didn't even know this is a possibility. Oh, hopefully he's gotten his beauty sleepings up and ready. Hello, how you doing?
Pretty good. Yeah, so I was at my grandparents last night, and they're more, late night folk, whereas I am not. And so I was like, all right, lucky it's 11. I'm like, oh, okay.
It's usually the other way around. The older people can't keep up with the young people,
say,
but you gotta complete. You're 2 generations, and later or earlier, and you're still not keeping up with them. But
no, well, I was keeping up with them. The problem was. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I just took
earlier than a grandparent is actually what it sounds like.
Yeah. What was the problem?
But, it's just, I ended up getting to bed, and then I set my alarm, and I'm like, 5.5 hours. All right. And clearly I've slept through it. 5.5 is not enough. So,
yeah.
And that's why we have the Pokemon Sleep background, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, I said earlier, I was like, in your defense, you did tell us that you were just going to sleep in and assume you missed nothing.
You did miss something.
You were just trying. You were just trying to teach all of us a lesson. Well, we showed you.
Yeah, it was on purpose. It was on purpose. Let's assume this is a teaching moment.
Calculated.
My risk was calculated, but boy, am I bad at math.
Well, welcome. Oh, maybe we do have time for a Kaz's Corner now, but we'll talk about that after Championship Series. We're talking about Vancouver. You didn't miss too much. We talked about Fortaleza already, but for Vancouver, we haven't gone over the teams. We're just talking about Tristan's experience with Pocket. Wait, how many people were in the Pocket side event again? Sorry, I was like distracted.
It was like 20 to 30, somewhere in that range.
That's actually a good amount.
Yeah, it's not bad. I'm curious how many of the actual TCG players play Pocket on the side. I'm sure a good chunk do, but I also wouldn't be surprised if a lot of them don't, because especially if they're more on the tabletop side and don't even play online TCG. But
it seemed like there was a mix of people. Like there was some Go players, I think some TCG players, probably some VG players. I didn't the thing was, it was like 20 to 30 people, but it was just like 3 rounds, like truncated Swiss basically.
Mm.
And then you got prize tickets based on how many wins you got. It was kind of an
Yeah.
interesting format where basically you had to make 2 decks, and your decks couldn't have any overlapping Pokemon. And then you played a best of 3, and like for game 1 you can use whatever deck you want, but then once you win with a deck you can't use that deck anymore. So basically you have to get a win with both decks to win the best of 3, which was kind of interesting.
I see. That's interesting.
Adib
Is
said
that
he
just so
lost
you don't
his...
like, just hard counter win? Like, is that kind of the idea?
I think it's sort of that. I don't know all the reasons, but it was interesting. Adib said that, like, because I didn't play much Pocket since the newest set dropped, because I was sort of prepping for Vancouver. But I guess like Arceus EX with Dialga EX is like probably the top deck right now, and so that was one of Adib's 2 decks. And he said his last round he lost because he won game 1, but then he couldn't get a win with his Arceus deck because his opponent ran 2 decks that counter Arceus. So there's some like interesting strategy there of like sort of reading the meta game and like thinking what sort of decks to run and stuff. So I thought it was a pretty interesting format. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I had a good time in Vancouver. Unfortunately, was 1 round short of getting CP. So that was a bit of a bummer. But it happens.
Who did you end up losing to, out of curiosity? Or is
I
that people we know,
lost
or
to
just
Chemcoop in
okay.
winners.
Strong opponent.
And then in losers, I got knocked out by the Torian. So,
those are both really strong opponents.
Definitely like
Yeah.
really strong opponents. Chemcoop, it came down to a game 3. Torian just kind of crushed me and just outplayed me. But I mean, he's a good player, and like our matchup was pretty neutral, and he just outmaneuvered me just like a little bit each game, where he was just like a step or 2 ahead each time. So
Right.
Can't be too upset about that. Two good opponents. Had some good battles overall.
It was one of those stacked
think-
tournaments too, where they only have 4 brackets, but each
Right.
bracket is huge, right? So
Yeah, each bracket was like 30 people, so there was a lot of good players in every single bracket for sure.
yeah, it was a
Yeah, I was-
max amount, like pretty much near max amount per bracket.
Yeah, overall I was decently happy with my team. The one thing is I ran Shadow Sableye partially because I love Sableye, but also because I was expecting people to run a lot of ghosts, because I was expecting to see a lot of Jellicent and Dusclops, because those were both getting buffed. But I didn't really see many ghosts. Most people had like no ghost, or their ghost was a Sableye of their own. And I faced a lot of teams that had like Azumarill, Drapion, and Diggersby. So my Sableye was sort of dead weight a lot of the time. I wish I had run a Dusclops instead, because Dusclops beats Diggersby all evens and can beat Azumarill most of the time too. So that was my one sort of regret / bad meta read there. I ran the team with
It's
Dusclops in the cup the next day, and it felt a lot better. My team was actually, if I had run Dusclops, it would have been the same team that Haydonis ran. I just would have run a non-shadow Dusclops, because from what I saw, the non-shadow seemed like it had a few better matchups I liked. But
that team did pretty good too.
that was
Interesting
my
enough,
experience.
5. Yeah.
5 what?
Well, I was gonna say is
Who'd you say?
interesting enough, in the top 8, there are 4 Diggersby, but all of them were in 5 through 8th spot, and none of the top 4 ran Diggersby, which is kind of interesting. But plenty of
That's
Diggersby still though in this tournament, and I think that'll probably fall off after this weekend. Obviously, the meta's a little bit
Oh,
more
yeah.
different, but it's not gonna love all the Dynamic Punch, the occasional Dynamic Punch users, and also Lapras is gonna be
I was
pretty
gonna
annoying for
say,
it.
and the additional waters like
Yeah.
Lapras, Blastoise,
We'll see.
Yeah.
I think grounds are going to be important though, because
Golisopod.
you need something that can cover like Drapion and Galarian Weezing, and a few other.
Well, I think Lapras just beats both too, right? So it's not as crucial to have like a hard check. Also, Digucy was never really a
I
hard
think
pick to draft
true,
beyond,
true.
but
I
Yeah.
think I think Lapras isn't as good into the non-shadow Drapion, which might be the shift though.
maybe, yeah. I just think that Digucy will probably become a liability with all these Dynamic Punch users.
Potentially,
Because
yeah.
I
We'll see.
think at that point you just probably still run Marowak. I feel like Marowak's still the better play.
Yeah, that might be it.
Claydol is not it though. Haven't used it myself. It's just too weak to so many things in the meta. But
Yeah, it has
anyway,
so
Rise
many
Occasion.
weaknesses.
Yeah, way too many. Rise
And
Occasion
right
does take that number one spot yet
and the
again.
same team won both tournaments.
That's
The
actually kind of
same exact
nuts.
team. Well, so I
Were
was
they
talking to
both
Rice
running double
after.
flying? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was
Wow.
talking to Rice after, and I was like, "How'd you come up with this team? Because it's a pretty unique team, right? Like, obviously it won both tournaments, but like besides, I think SS Thorn also ran it, but besides that, no one else was running like that flavor of Pokemon. Like, it obviously worked well, and it was a good meta read, but it's sort of an obscure set of Pokemon, right? And he said that he was scrimming with some of the Brazilians, and like he had made a team that was similar to what he ended up with, and then it was like they borrowed some elements from his team and he borrowed some elements from their team, and I think they like over the course of scrimming they sort of iterated and ended up at that team. I think he said he might have gotten the Galissapod pick from Desynced. So interesting how sort of the iterative process, especially because they were probably expecting that most other people wouldn't really be practicing in this meta because it's a one-off meta. So if you're not competing this one weekend, you're not going to be super interested. So sort of battling each other and iterating to get there. So I thought that was pretty interesting and a cool story, sort of to show how they both ended up at the same team. But yeah, I thought
and similarly in the top 10, all the Jumpluff were also running that double flyer moveset.
Yeah, that is super interesting. I mean, even if you look at it, there's not a ton of waters. Like, pretty much well, outside like ice water, right? But most teams only have really not a lot of teams have double water in even the top 8, right? If you cut out the dugong, so I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I obviously it's much more favorable, especially in the head-to-head associated with shields down, and obviously it worked. The
right.
Glycopod, actually, I should say double water too. Some of these teams are running triple water if you count the Glycopod too, I guess. But it's really just Rise and SS Storm's teams. I think Zimmy get out of low kicks. What the heck? I was looking to see if he was running Surfetch, and he wasn't. But he's been running low kicks.
He's been running that low
crazy
kicks in locals. It's kind of interesting. I remember playing him one time and like I like got my Azumarill against it, and I was like, "Oh, I'm chilling. This is a water or a fairy type against a dark type." And then he starts hitting me with the Trailblazers, and I'm like, "All right, like I think no shield the first one, it's fine." But then like they start adding up, right? The Trailblaze boosts its attack, and they start really hurting, and I'm like, "This is actually not a comfortable matchup at all. Like I have to shield here. Like I don't love this." And I think I ended up either losing it or going down shields or something. I don't really remember, but yeah, not as
you get farmed down from his Azumarill.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those Pokemon that if everyone had hardcore knowledge of the Pokemon, it wouldn't do as well as it's done. It was sort of my take when I looked into it because I saw it and I was like, "What is this doing here? What are you actually getting?" And I feel like it's just performing well because people don't really know it. Is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, somewhat. I think it's also got some valuable typing and coverage, right? Like it has that dark damage for ghosts, and then it's resisting dark psychic ghost. It resists ground. It has the Trailblaze coverage for water and ground types. And it's also a dark type that's not actually weak to fighting. So like, I don't think it's an amazing Pokemon, but I don't think it's a bad Pokemon either. And it has some interesting typing and moves and stuff. So yeah, shout out to Zimmy. He got top 8, which is his best finish to date. In a
maybe dropping the Surfetch was the key.
Tournament. In a pretty stacked tournament too.
Yeah, it's so also, interesting too that oh, go ahead. What are you gonna say?
No, you go first.
I was gonna say it's interesting. I'm looking at this too. 5th through 8th, the bottom 4 of the top 8. not only did they all have Digger Speed, they all had Emolga, and no one had Emolga in the top 4. It's like so weird. Like those 4 players, I feel like all had a good meta read too, but just fell short on the meta read than the top 4. But maybe Jump Off was the way to go outside Hidanis' Charger Bug. Charger Bug does look pretty good though, but I can see how I don't know. You can't the flying grass Jump Off is pretty nice too. Also, big shout out to Hidanis too. This is his highest finish to date as well, and
He enjoyed your club.
Hidanis. Yeah, the 06 club.
So exclusive.
I think his was a little bit more brutal because I didn't watch all the battles, but the lag, the latency at this tournament was not one of the better ones, to put it lightly. There were a lot of rematches. I don't know how much of it you saw in person, Tristan, but it was
like I said, I didn't see much. I was busy doing side events.
He's like, screw this tournament. I'm here to play some side events. I'm playing Pocket. Ain't no one turn lag here.
What he's not talking about is he's like, he saw one bit of lag and was like, well, I'm playing Pocket the rest of this event.
Just to take us back, I've only just realized this, but I'm looking at the bracket, and the 4 people, the Diggersby Emolga cores that were sitting in 5th to 8th, they all got knocked out of the tournament by Rise or SS Thorn running that same team. All 4 of them got knocked out by the same team.
Okay. I have a follow-up question. How many of them got knocked out by both of them? Like their 2
like in
losses.
the winners bracket as well.
Well, like their 2 losses were to those 2. And it's probably less likely because they both started on day 2 on the loser side, but there might be. I don't know.
Nighttime didn't, Dapper Discs didn't, Zimmy Kid didn't, and Dialap didn't.
Right?
So
I don't. I guess it's not really possible because they both started on the loser side.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Because they wouldn't have made top 8 if they lost to one of them on the winner side.
Yeah.
Well,
it's possible. It's just less likely.
No, I don't think it's possible because both Rise and SS Storm, started on the loser side.
Wait, you're right. You would have gone to losers.
So they would have beat one of them, even if they face off. They would have beat him on the winner side day 1, right?
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
It's okay. Steve just woke up 5 minutes ago. But that's.
I mean, it sort of makes sense. That Steelix is pretty tough for the Emolga for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely walled off. You just to run into it is like super annoying.
And I think
Emolga's super frail too. But
yeah, and the Golisopod is interesting too because I think it has a lot of play with energy as well. It can threaten a lot of stuff of the top meta, even if it doesn't look as good in straight sims. It threatens a lot of those top picks if you give it a little energy as well.
I have a question for you all. Do you think that Golisopod will still be meta after this weekend in the new season?
I kind of doubt it.
I don't think it's going to be top meta, but it might have. I think it'll still show up here and there, but it's not going to be like a top meta pick. I mean,
well,
it still has the Shadow Claw. It still has the Shadow Claw, which is nice with all the ghosts and stuff. And like Aquajet did get buffed, but I think it's going to be more of a fringe pick, anti-meta type pick, not top meta.
Okay. I mean, it's very top meta, at least based on this past tournament. So
in this unique meta.
It wasn't top usage. It was just like top performance, right?
Top performing, yeah. Well, but I would say top usage. The lack of top usage is because people weren't aware, but people that were caught onto it realized its potential is very good. Yeah. I still think it's meta. It's just that people didn't realize it was meta. It's a better way.
Okay,
I think a lot of
we can
people
do a prediction here because I've got the data from the Indian qualifier, and
I think a lot of people
guess.
A lot of people were, were cued into Golisopod's potential because on Friday, Rice was going around the venue asking everyone if they had any Wimpods to trade him. So a lot of people are like, wait, Golisopod? Is that going to be good? But like, I don't think people had the thought process to put together a whole team around it, even if Rice asking for trades sort of clued them into its potential. I don't think they had the team building or scrim prep to really build a cohesive team around it, even if a lot of us did get clued in by that. And before
Did
this
sound like you got a
predictions,
good one.
yeah, I wanted to also shout out Dunebug's team that I thought was pretty interesting. He was running Dugong, Shadow Fortress, Jellicent, Shadow Drapion, Shadow Jumpluff, and Guzzlord. So taking advantage of those recently buffed Jellicent and Fortress, and then sort of building some good cores around there, with a few picks that we don't see quite as often. So I thought that was a pretty interesting team, and it was exciting to see him make it pretty far with that.
I thought you were going to say exciting to see someone actually run one of the ghosts you were trying to target.
I think
True.
Jellicent might have a little bit more utility once Lapras and Grumpig make it into the meta, but I think it's a little bit hard to use for this specific tournament. But
Well, the thing Dune was saying,
Dubug's no stranger to trying to run some spice.
the
but
thing
and
Dune
trying
was
to go into
saying
meta.
about the Jellicent is I think the Jellicent has probably the best Primeape matchup of any of the ghosts. Because like the Sableye struggles, especially without Dazzling Gleam, but even with Dazzling Gleam, Sableye isn't actually great into the Primeape. And then even the Dusclops has some lose cons to Primeape, just because of like damage output and stuff. Well, but the Jellicent is like bulky enough to tank the Rage Fists, and then sort of paces quick enough to those like Surfs and Shadow Balls to take out the Primeape better.
I think the problem with Jellicent is that it's just harder to run into other stuff in the meta, in my opinion. I also don't think that Primeape will be that meta once the Sidewave users become eligible. But that's just my thing. I don't know. I don't think a lot of fighters are going to be that strong, actually.
Yeah, I mean, even in GBL, I've seen them drop off quite a bit.
I think fighters are going to be important as Cradily answers. And I could see people running Pangoro because it resists the Psywave, but then Primeape starts to have a niche. If people are running like Pangoro, Cradily, and Lapras, Primeape starts to have
Cradily is going to be that good. I don't know. Having played it and played against it, it's safe, but it's not. I don't know. There's ways to check it without fighters, I guess is a better way of saying it. Like there's like you could just run like Grumpig or I don't know.
I mean, it's got a fighting type move. It's
yeah. No, I know, but I just think that like running, I feel like it's going to be really hard to run fighters. I don't know. Maybe I could be mistaken, right? I know the India qualifiers has Primeape in like pretty high usage, like top 6 usage, but
oh yeah, Steve, you said you had data from that.
Yeah. Well, wait. Let's wrap up Vancouver before we talk about that. Is anything else left in Vancouver?
I think I do think that Primeape and Pangoro are probably going to be the top fighters because they're the two fighters that are best into ghosts.
I don't think Pangoro will be, but just because of accessibility reasons. I do agree with you. I think it's good, but I don't think a lot of people have it.
It's not that non-accessible anymore, right? Like it used to be.
How do you get it? You can't get a Pangoro in Great League.
There was some events.
Go
fest.
You could catch it off your incense.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I didn't get one.
Caleb.
What?
No. I'm sure you got some and you just transferred them because you didn't like the IVs.
Yeah.
It's possible. No, I actually didn't. Well, if it was Global Go Fest, then definitely not because I didn't really play much of that. The in-person LA tour. Oh, Go Fest or Go Tour?
Yeah, Fest.
No, go. Fest. No, I know, but Go Fest. No, but we reestablished
2022.
2022 is a long time ago. What you mean? How's it more accessible than before? What I'm saying is that
because it was very accessible for a short period of time.
No. I know. What I'm saying is it hasn't been any more accessible since they made Pangoro relevant in this meta, right? Since they buffed Karate Chop, whatever it was. Like it hasn't been. There's been no way to get a Great League Pangoro since before September, or since September 1st, right?
Yeah.
Since that meta shift, which means that anyone that struggled to get to be like, I don't have a Pangoro when they shipped everything right after Worlds, still doesn't have one unless they got really lucky. That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
Because I still don't have one. I mean, maybe you all do, but I don't. And
I have one built and like 2 or 3 more I can make.
Oh well.
I don't know what you're
sounds
doing.
like you don't
Caitlin.
need it. It sounds like you don't need to make all three. Is
Well, I don't know what you're doing because I just remember playing factions and everyone like scrambling to find a Pangoro to scrim with Cindy, and then like a few months later there was Go
Yeah,
Fest,
I didn't.
And I said everyone catch the Panchams so you can get a Pangoro. Clearly, someone wasn't listening.
Well, yeah, I probably just didn't get a good IV one, but I didn't think it was going to be this inaccessible since 2022. 2022? That's crazy. It wasn't even.
I didn't realize it was so long ago.
Yeah. You think I was listening back then? Definitely not.
Listen, that's where mine are from. But in my defense, like I don't know if there have been other opportunities since then, like other events that have featured.
No, there hasn't. There hasn't.
No,
I'm almost positive. Yeah, I'm positive because I know because there's no other chance. There only is one potential chance, but I couldn't figure out how Twitch drops works. Is at Worlds. There was like one, I think, Pancham encounter in the research, but I don't know if it would have been eligible enough based on level. But that's the only other time. I'm 100% positive.
Because I think you can actually get. So the thing too, Caleb, is I believe you can get a Great League Pangoro by rolling down a level 20 egg hatch.
You can't. Or if you can, it's like the odds are stupid low. I've looked into it before. Let me take a look and see. Pangoro, right?
Yeah.
All right. So level 20 was let's just go like a 000, I guess.
Okay. It is possible.
It's stupid rare. Okay, I guess it's slightly possible, but it's very
it's actually not that bad. Even a 444 fits in.
A 544 fits.
Huh.
There you go.
Also a 455 fits.
Today on Caleb Learns.
Caleb,
like acting like I'm the only one that learned this today, right? You all didn't know this until you plugged it in too.
You're the only one learning it today.
I did.
Anyway, whatever. I stand by it. Fighters aren't going to be that relevant in this meta.
Caleb, you have a holo, and you're saying it's hard to get a Pangoro.
Yeah, come on.
I have a what?
A holo.
Yeah, but a holo is arguably more useful.
What?
Oh, I don't think so.
All right, let's take a bet.
That's the joke, everyone.
Let's gonna get a higher placement next season.
That's the joke, everyone. Stay tuned for my tour dates on my stand-up shows. Anyway, big congrats to Rise as well. There's another tournament he's won. He's the only person. He's the only person who's.
Yeah, he's won a regional every season.
On the Masters level.
Yeah.
Actually, I think even if you exclude that actual asterisk, it's
if you say regional.
Yeah, regional.
What about Emmy Weedle?
He got. Obviously, he got World Season 1. He got a regional.
No. I think he got a regional Season 1, but he was like the only person playing it or something like that. Or maybe that was the IC. Maybe that was the IC.
Well, he got an
IC. Even if it was a regional, he hasn't won
season.
A regional. He hasn't won a regional this season.
Oh, that's true too. yeah, you're right.
He still could maybe,
with Dodge qualified through. Yeah, with Dodge qualified to NEIC, he won that.
Yeah,
and then Pocket won a regional his first year, but he didn't win one last year. He won an IC last year. He didn't win a regional last year though.
Yeah.
So I think Rice is the only one. It's not like he's the only one that's gotten a first place like every single year, but it is a little. Yeah. It's like one of those like very very specific sports stats, but it is a cool one. To be the only person to win a regional every single year.
And last thought on Vancouver is initially I found the meta kind of annoying to team build for, but I ended up finding the meta fairly enjoyable overall. At least the people I played, I felt like the battles were fairly dynamic and not always very alignment heavy, which was nice. And I did feel like the move changes had more of a shakeup than I was expecting on the meta, and I'm excited for the full on meta, but I wouldn't have been mad if these changes, just the move adjustments, had happened in December and we had played that meta from December through the start of March. I think it was a pretty good and interesting meta, and I wouldn't have disliked that. But yeah, I am definitely excited to see how this full on meta with the Laprases and the Dazzling Gleam, Sableye, and Grumpig, and Dusknoir, and all that jazz. The Furret, etc., Cradily. I think it's going to be a fun meta.
Yeah.
Charmer, Bombi.
The well,
Maybe
you're
not
saying
that
all
one.
this
The
stuff, but
actual secret sauce.
well, let's say I think it's a good transition to the Indian qualifiers because we're talking about all these things, but realistically, how many what are people actually bringing right with the first meta thing? So let's take a look at that because I know Steve made a graphic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. So basically, the Indian qualifiers apparently they've posted the spreadsheet of the teams up, days early, so they can sort of fact check it or whatever else. Which just meant that I could swoop in, grab all of the data, sift through it to make some usage stats. Because usually we don't really know until Dracoviz eventually updates it after the tournament. Which I like the idea of having it early to get a little bit of a look at what's actually going on. But I mean, well, okay, here's the caveat, because when you look at the usage data, it looks like a very well spread out meta because the numbers are really low in that, in the top, the sixth most used Pokemon is only at 16.8%, which feels like, wow, that must mean that there is a lot of variety. And there is a lot of variety, but there's also a lot of nonsense that is being run in this tournament.
Yeah. How many total qualifiers are there? Just participants, out of curiosity.
250. It's supposed to be 256. I think it's 255 that was on the spreadsheet.
2 qualifiers in total.
Oh, so it's actually weird how us in the English audience, we've sort of been fed the fact that there's 2 qualifiers. In the Indian server and stuff, the way they present it is really more just, this is one qualifier, and we've just, because there's so many people, we've split you into 2 brackets, but it's all sort of the one qualifier. But it's 256-ish total.
Does it take place in the same day?
Half. No, half of them do Saturday, half of them do Sunday, and it's randomly allocated by the seams of it. Which is crazy.
Mean, is it double elim or was it Swiss?
I think it's usually Swiss for the qualifiers.
Oh, okay.
And then I think top 32 progress to the finals, which is, I think, first weekend of April for India.
So I think it is similar to last year's where they had 2 qualifiers over the weekends. I guess if there's just 2 brackets in the same tournament bracket, then it's like one tournament, quote unquote, but it's still technically just 2 tournaments, right?
Yeah, pretty much. But anyway, we do have the usage data, and I think that, well, a lot of people are predicting big Lapras #1, or wasn't even close. It was big Mandibuzz up the top at #1 with 27%, and then it's Azumarill and Clodsire, both around the same sort of spot. So Mandy, Azu, Clodsire, sounding like a very much new meta, I guess, followed by Drapion to round out the top 4. And then the first sort of big new guy is Cradily that actually came in 5th, which is pretty cool. But I don't think anyone was expecting that to be the big bring-in. But maybe it's to counter Lapras. Everyone was assuming big
Lapras
Lapras
and
at #1.
Blastoise.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I think Cradily is going to be good, but I didn't expect it to be the top.
Blastoise not even in this meta, but did you all see my tweet interaction with Marcus Aurelius?
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
So for those that don't know,
you got to mention on the broadcast.
It did? Oh,
in Vancouver.
What?
You didn't get. There were no named names, but Wholesome was sort of shouting out on social media on X, formerly Twitter, that there's been some discussion.
Yeah, I always get the last laugh, is what I say. So we shall see if that's the case or not. But what exactly happened for those that didn't see it? Sorry, I have a bunch of Scopely things bookmarked. We'll talk about shortly. All right, this was on March 7th. Marcus Aurelius, or Arceus Aurelius, known as Marcus Borger. I don't know. If people don't use their real names, you can't be mad at me for not remembering. It says, bookmark this tweet as it may come back to bite me. Azumarill will not win a major event in Might and Mastery. And I said, as someone that self-proclaims himself as the world's best Talonflame user, at least the double fly variant, I said, transfer your main Talonflame if you're wrong. And he said, I will let you pour a gallon of water over me on the broadcast if I'm wrong. I was like, all right, deal. I was like, I'll let the 2 tournaments this weekend slide since they're isolated matches, which was the past one. Which Azumarill, did Azumarill win any
Didn't
of
win.
those? Yeah,
Did not
didn't win.
win.
They got like second, right? But
Yeah, close.
But anyway, so it's a interesting proposition that, look, I have nothing to lose. I didn't say I'm dumping any water on my head, right? Step 1 of making a bet with Caleb is making sure that you don't think you have the worst end of the stick. You probably will always, but if you don't think so, at least you can stomach it better. This man didn't even offer anything up. He didn't be like, "Hey, I'll pour the bucket on your head if you're wrong," right? Nothing. It's a win-win situation for me. Anyway, number 2 in usage for India qualifier sounds pretty good. So
Yeah.
I'm rooting for all the Azumarill users, not just in India, but all throughout the world. You know, and we have a lot, right? Didn't we say this is the biggest GPL
is.
season with tournaments?
Yo,
Yeah, I think that's true. Well, India really helps with that front, but yeah.
Look,
Oh,
the
Asia,
moment that Azumarill wins, I'm going to start messaging some people and asking if it's possible to do this actually on the broadcast, because I don't know. That's some content right there. I sure would
Here's
love
the
to see
question.
that.
Are you just
That's a whole video segment, like in between battles, right there.
Or
Here's the
live.
question though: are you just gonna like fill it up with normal water, or are you gonna like put some ice cubes in there?
He said water.
I don't know. I don't want to.
There's wiggle
I
room.
need to make sure there isn't like a liability here on like
True.
health and safety reasons. But we shall see. Stay tuned. Stay tuned, everyone. Outside of those usage things, I think one last thing to talk about for the championship series is a recent sponsorship. Someone want to take this one? I know. I mean, I can if. I'll just take it. It's fine. Luminosity Gaming is a tier 1 esports org. So tier 1 esports orgs are like Team Liquid, 100 Thieves, FlyQuest, stuff like that. G2, and obviously Luminosity Gaming is one of them. They're probably most known, at least within the Pokemon space, for having a 2-time World Championship team in Pokemon Unite. Both the
There's
first
also
and second year.
2
World
IC
champs.
winner this season.
Wait, hold on. I think, okay, technically speaking, I think that the first year that team won Worlds, they were under a different label. But the second year,
Yeah, I think you're right.
they won Worlds. Yeah, and then it's the same team. Well, they like shuffled some of their roster a little bit, but it's the same team. They won 2 international events this year too. So they're looking
They won
like they're
LAIC and UIC.
Yep, and they look like
Wait,
they're
Caleb,
well on their way of potentially. Yeah.
For those of us that don't know, like, what is sort of the definition of a tier 1 esports org? Like, not like super.
Yeah,
strict,
that's
like,
a
what
good
does that
question.
mean?
So, yeah, I think it's probably like a more or less. There probably is a more formal definition to it, but to be considered tier 1, I think essentially you have to have teams in esports, various esports on the highest level, right? So, for example, Pokemon Unite, Pokemon Go, Pokemon games in general, there aren't tiers to it. But for other games like League of Legends or Valorant, stuff like that, you can't just be like, I'm gonna form a team of 5 people or how many people need for a team, and I'm going to submit it and try to compete. Like you have to have a spot in it. It's almost like think of it like the professional sports, right? Like the NBA, NFL, stuff like that, right? Where you can't just you can't be like, oh, let's all of us get together and compete in the NBA next year. No, you can't do that, right? You have to have there's franchises that have their spots for it, right? And obviously, if they sell eventually, right, someone else can buy up that team or change ownership and stuff like that. But So esports is kind of different where it's like, okay, so like let's say if the Lakers ownership changes, then it might be a different ownership, but still the Lakers, right? But for esports, more like, oh, if the Lakers esports owner wants to get rid of it and they sell their spot, then something else might come up, like a different team under a different name. But they have to allocate spots still for that team. So for tier 1 esports orgs, they essentially, I think the classification would be that they have involvement in the highest tier of various esports. Maybe, I don't know if the minimum is 1, 2, whatever, but Luminosity Gaming has that, along with, maybe it's not as big as something like Team Liquid or 100 Thieves and stuff, but it's not, for lack of a better example, it's not like Lager Gaming, right? Lager Gaming, obviously they have a lot of Pokemon Go players playing for them, but they're not a tier 1 esports org. So even though it's like still significant that they have like, Doombug playing for them and other like Podamon playing for them and stuff like that, it's not a tier 1 org yet. But they do have good Pokemon Go players playing for them. Anyway, so hopefully that makes sense for that. But it is a big deal because if, let's say, if other tier 1 orgs start picking up players, right, for Pokemon Go or for Pokemon games, etc., then those are big deals because that means that it's not to say that Pokemon isn't a legitimate esports, but it further legitimizes the competitive nature of it and the esports level to it. So I personally, I am kind of surprised. Pokemon Unite makes sense to me because it is a team game, and just like other team games as well, the amount of teams that can possibly even be in contention of Worlds is not a lot. Like a couple dozen max, maybe less than that. And if you invest in like one of the top 10 teams in the world, you have a pretty good chance of winning Worlds one of these years, right? If not, still getting second, third, whatever. That's still like a pretty decent accomplishment for your organization, because I think part of it is they take a percentage of the prize pool, but also it's like it looks good for their esports resume, right? And so that they, because I think a lot of them, they get their funding from sponsorships. So some of the big ones, like they'll have like Mercedes-Benz sponsor them, right? Or Red Bull or something like that, right? Like really big companies. So the more that their teams win, the better it is to like prolong or continue funding their esports venture, essentially. All that's to say is that Luminosity Gaming did pick up Nighttime Clasher as their first Pokemon Go player. Another, I don't know if this is like a great classification for official, like a tier 1 org, but I did notice that I think almost every tier 1 org, there is a logo next to the players' handles on X. And, like Lager doesn't have that, right? So 7-Eleven doesn't either, but 7-Eleven Mexico, I would say, is probably almost in line with a tier 1 org at this point, because they have the funding for it, and they just probably invest more in like mobile esports, and mobile esports is not nearly as big as the non-mobile esports, so that is part of it. But anyway, so I think
it's pretty huge.
Congrats to Nighttime Clasher. Yeah, I think Joe UX from VGC is also Luminosity, right?
I've been seeing him on the Luminosity's Rising Stars thingo.
Oh yeah. But maybe not actually.
Yeah,
it's weird.
I'm not actually sure what that Rising Stars is. Like, it sort of seems like they're like, because they whittled it down from 100 to 50, so it feels like they're like trying to win something. So I don't know if that's like a spot in Luminosity Gaming or what's going on.
Yeah, he's been like shouting out Luminosity in a lot of his posts and stuff too. I'm not fully sure. Anyway, Joe UX is a really good VGC player for Pokemon. But anyway, this is the only one Pokemon Go player to date, at least, that's sponsored by Tier 1 org, which is pretty big. I'm genuinely a little bit surprised too. Not to say that like it's not deserved for Nighttime Clash. Like, he's one of the most consistent players. I think it's totally valid. I think investing in any esports where just like a single player kind of aspect to it is tough, because the odds of one person winning Worlds that you sponsor is way less than a team game where there's only like, there's a lot of people that play the game, but if there's only 30 teams at Worlds, your chances are it's possible, right? Especially if it's a good team. Nighttime Clash is going to be 1 out of 200 something players at Worlds, right? And he is good, but to win Worlds is really, really tough. To get top 5 at Worlds, top 10 at Worlds is really, really tough. You know,
Right. It's a numbers game a
so
little bit.
yeah, Doombug, one of the best players in the circuit, got 2-0'd at Worlds last year. Actually, we could bring it closer home. Nighttime Clasher got 2-0'd at Worlds last year, I think. But again, this is no hate on Nighttime Clasher. He's a great player. It's just that the margin of error is so small at Worlds, and you have to beat so many players to get there. Obviously,
I
Nighttime
think
Clasher
too-
wins Worlds or gets like a really high finish. Like that's going to be really good for Pokemon Go esports because other tier 1 orgs are going to see that. And one, Luminosity Gaming might invest in other Pokemon Go players for starters, which is good. And then two, other esports tier 1 orgs will also look into like, hey, that was a good investment for Luminosity Gaming. Maybe we should do our own Pokemon Go team
Right.
as well.
I think there's also more variance in like Go in particular. Like we've talked about how there's not as high of a skill ceiling, right? Like if you look at Unite or you look at, Fortnite, League of Legends, etc., there's a much higher skill ceiling and there's a lot more room for skill expression because there's so many like micro decisions that you can make every second. And I think there's more variance in Go because there's less decision point. Not like certainly like there's still a lot of skill involved in Go, but there's less points throughout a game where you can make those decisions compared to a lot of these other esports. So I think there's just more variance involved there as well.
Yeah. It's just your odds of winning in a solo game is just way lower, right? But it's cool that esports orgs are taking a chance there, and I think that's just kind of the nature of a lot of Pokemon games like TCG, VGC, Pokken. Even before that, like they're just single player games, and I think there's definitely pros and cons to it. I think one of the cons, unfortunately, is that it's a little bit hard to build fandom around specific players because a lot of times people build fandom around players but also the teams, right? So people buy like who's gonna buy like a merch for a specific player like like an esports like jersey or stuff like that. It's less likely, but it's like but if you're rooting for a team, you're more likely to get the merch because you're rooting for the whole team, right? Again, having one player perform like year after year at the same high level when there's hundreds of other competitors in the same field is really, really tough. I mean, technically more than hundreds, but I'm saying like at the highest level, right? Any Worlds, there's hundreds, right? So, but anyway, big congrats to Nighttime Flasher though. Definitely earned. So,
we'll have to wait and see. It'd be exciting if Luminosity and other esports orgs start investing more, but we'll just have to see how it pans out because, like Caleb said, it does seem potentially a little riskier than some of the team games.
And if it doesn't pan out too, it's not like Nighttime Clasher's fault or anything like that. I just want to clarify, that aspect. It's just, again, it's a esports as a whole is, at least these days, kind of a money sink for orgs. Like they don't really get much of a return. One really good example of this is Sky's Toast, which people probably know just from general streaming and, especially the Among Us days and stuff. He said that he's about like over $1 million in the red from running his esports org. He's pretty much a tier 1 org at this point though, because he's like worked his way through like tier 2 and stuff like that. So he's a tier 1 league org. He probably tier 2 on like Valorant side or something like that, and some other games. He actually sponsors some TCG players actually for NAIC for some stuff, but they're not like actually part of his team. They just like sponsor their trip, I guess. For I don't know, maybe they're just like testing out some stuff. But all that's to say is it's already a money sink. So don't be surprised if there aren't further investments within Pokemon Go, right? Hopefully there are, but if not, I get it. I get it. But that pretty much wraps it up for our championship series. I know we kind of rambled on that a bit.
I think we had one more thing on the agenda.
What is it? Oh, the World Spectator thing registration. Yeah, we could talk about that too. Actually, let's talk about that because, that's pretty important, I guess. You wanna do the rundown of that?
We can pull it up in a sec, or if you have it already open.
Oh, okay, I can talk about it real quick. I haven't looked into it myself personally, so that's why. because I'm hoping to either work the event or play in the event. But I guess maybe I should put an inspector just in case. But it just says if you're trying to go to Worlds Championships in Anaheim this year, it's 2025. I think you just. I'm trying to think if there's an easy way to find this. Maybe just Google World Spectators or whatever for 2025
I mean,
Pokemon
I
World
know
Championships.
they tweeted it out on like the Play Pokemon account. On,
Okay,
like,
yeah,
the
so
X
that's
account.
a good way to
Yeah.
look at it.
If you just Google World Spectator Pokemon Worlds, it'll come up.
There's a spectator interest list, and you add yourself into the interest list between 11th of March until the 23rd. So by the time you're listening to this, hopefully you still have a chance to if you want to. The issue is, just like all past years of Worlds, they sell out spectator spots. So you just throw your name into this lottery, I guess, and then they will give you a heads up if you can do it or not. And then there's a multi-day pass as well as a single-day pass. The multi-day pass covers Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of Worlds, which are all 3 days. Single pass, obviously, one of those 3 days. And then look for email if you do it, all that stuff. It is kind of on the pricier side, but I don't remember how much it was from past years, so I don't know because
It's I actually did put my name on the interest list, so the multi-day interest or pass would be 99. So, and I think it is literally like 33 for each day.
It's
Yeah.
39 for single day, so it's
39,
slightly better, like value
Yeah.
multi-day. But honestly, like, I mean, to each their own. Whatever your travel plans are, like, maybe some people just want to spectate for a day and then go to Disney. Like, that's fine too. But like, personally, like, I would want to be there for all 3 days because like all the battles and matches are just so great. And like they have a lot of fun, like in-game bonuses at the venue and stuff too. So like, I'll be feeling
Also-
Not
this
to
out later
mention
as well.
the Pokemon Center pop-up and like
Yeah.
all the side events and
Yeah.
just
Granted,
being
the-
able to connect with like so many other trainers.
Also,
The
if you're
Pokemon Center-
unless you're local to the area, what's the point, right? Why would you spend
Right.
like over couple hundreds of dollars for lodging a flight just to go for 1 day when it's
Yeah.
just less than $66 to get a multi-day, right?
Because
Like
I
the
will
expensive
say
part's
the
a flight
Pokemon
and the
Center,
hotel.
the Pokemon Center is separate. Like, you don't need a spectator
Yeah,
pass
yeah.
for the Pokemon Center, so that is separate. But yeah, side events and stuff too. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff going on at the venue that's definitely worth it in my opinion.
I put down my interest for a multi-day pass. You'll all be happy
Yeah.
to know.
Well, you're just going to compete at Worlds instead, so you don't
Yeah.
have to worry about
Quit
it.
saying that.
Okay. Here's my
Cursing.
sell to you, right? That multi-day pass, right? It's $100 something bucks, dude. That's about going to be as expensive as your Uber going to your hotel from the airport to Anaheim. So you might as well just save yourself that because you were going to pay a good chunk just for that alone. That's all I'm saying. Also, if you qualify for Worlds, at least in past years, you get 2 spectator passes. With your thing, so
Yeah.
you save your friends.
Yeah. So this.
$100
Okay.
each.
So
too,
they
your friends.
have some stuff at the bottom. It says competitors who qualify for World Championships will receive invitations at the conclusion of the 2025 season. All qualified invited competitors who join us in Anaheim will receive a competitor pass and 2 complimentary multi-day spectator passes for their named guests. So same as in the past. And it says competitors are encouraged to join the interest list now. Qualified competitors will be refunded for their spectator registration fee if applicable. So
Yeah, you do
If
have to
you're-
click when you sign up for it. You do have to click a little button that's like, I am also like trying to be a competitor or whatever. I forget what the wording was, but it's like basically like I am acquiring points and I might be a competitor. You just have to click this little extra thing so that like if you do, end up purchasing a pass, like if you are randomly drawn and you purchase your pass and you give them your money, that you will get that back. If you
right. So like if you're
qualify via
planning
points.
if you're planning on going to Worlds regardless of if you qualify or not, you might as well fill this out. I mean, obviously, unless you already have a guaranteed invite. But like, if you're saying like, I want to be at Worlds regardless, which is like I know is the case for me. It's on like for Anicore 2 and Kaz, etc. Like, you might as well fill this out because if you win the drawing, you get a spectator pass, and if you end up qualifying anyways, you can get a refund for that, and I'll like presumably throw that back in the pool for someone else to get it. So like, if you're thinking going to Worlds,
Yeah, I assume there
just
will
fill
be
it out.
waves.
It's pretty quick and easy, right, Kaz?
Oh yeah, it was super easy. I signed up like as soon as the link was made available. I went there and signed up because I was like, I have not gone ever. I am so excited to be able to go. So yeah, for me it was super easy choice. And oh my god, there was something else I was gonna say, but I lost it. Gone now.
And there's
Hope it wasn't
also
important.
there's also a media
Never
or
know.
content creator pass. Do you want to talk about that a little, Steve?
Yeah, I mean,
You've gone
I,
for the past 2 years.
Yeah,
maybe
I've
you
been
didn't
the
apply
last
for it,
2
but
years.
you were under the media pass, right, for the past 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I did apply last year. The year before wasn't as apply because they didn't have a form the year before.
Yeah.
It's sort of a newer thing. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's underneath the spectator pass. You can apply to sort of get a creator pass, which is kind of just like at its core, all it's really guaranteeing to you is that it's a free spectator pass in a sense. Like that's all that it's guaranteeing. Like if you get one.
No, don't you also get super early access to Pokemon Center?
Well, historically that's been the case, but you know it might not be the case this year.
Okay.
So it like the only thing that it definitely does let you do is it does get you in the door. But
you got in there
it's sort of
before even I did, and when I was casting the event in Yokohama, I was like, "What the heck is this?"
Yokohama, it was crazy the benefits that you got. It was a little less for Honolulu, just because they did expand it so much, and I think it's expanding again this year. So the one caveat, the sort of important part about it though, is that two things. One, you can't compete and also apply for a creator pass because I guess Pokemon doesn't want to look like they're picking favorites and stuff. Which is why, Wolfie's never been there as a creator because, obviously he's competing every year. And number two is that if you apply for a creator pass, you can't also apply for a spectator pass.
And vice versa.
Is what it says.
If you sign up on the interest list first, you cannot then apply for the media pass.
So it's kind of a risk, I guess, to go for it. Like you kind of want to be confident that it's going to go through, which is I don't know. I get it.
I get it.
I will say,
if they don't, then like all these people that apply for spectator passes are also going to apply for media social.
Yeah,
like,
that's here's the other
because
thing,
who
is
doesn't
that,
have a social media account to get linked to be like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
also a
exactly.
creator. I posted about
300
Pokemon before.
followers.
Yeah, dude, of course.
Yeah, but they do manually check, like they manually review every creator application. So I think they probably don't want that to be an insane number.
That too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say
So
though
they definitely want to discourage everyone from applying for that.
Yeah, obviously they want like big creators to sign up and they'll check them off, but they don't want everyone to just sign up.
But there doesn't seem to be like you need a certain amount of following to qualify for it, right? Because I've seen people like creators of all sizes kind of make it right for.
But I've also seen creators of all sizes get rejected in the last. I've seen some tweets going around with people posting a rejection email. So
I think I saw Pokemon posted too.
I will say that it says that they'll review the creator applications on like a rolling basis. And so, I've seen a lot of people who have posted that they applied and already heard back and obviously, unfortunately, got rejected. But it does mean that if you are interested in the creator route, as long as you could potentially, if you apply soon, you could apply for creator and would likely hear back soon. And then if you get rejected, could then apply for spectator. Obviously, don't be applying for creator like last minute in the last like 2 to 3 days, because at that point you probably won't have that fallback. But it seems like they are getting through those applications fairly quickly. So there is that option. Obviously, again, there is a bit of a risk, but it does seem like they're working through them pretty quickly, which is nice.
Oh, I remembered the other thing I wanted to say about the spectator interest list is it is individually based. So like you can't just sign up and say like I'm want this X amount of passes for my family or friends or whatever. Like everyone has to put their name on the list individually.
Yeah, which that wasn't the case last year, right? It was you got 3 passes or 2 passes if you got through the lottery.
I think you're right, Steve, but I don't remember. I will say, Kaz, I think the one caveat is it's individually based for adults, but I think that if an adult gets picked, there's a certain number of like child spectator passes they're able to do with that.
Yeah.
At least, so like,
I would assume so with like actual kids.
Right. So like if you're a parent trying to take kids, that's an option, but it's just unfortunate if you're like wanting to go with your partner or your friends, and each person has to sort of hope they get picked individually.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're interested in going, definitely fill out the form. It says the drawing will be on the 24th, so like you'll know pretty soon, like within 10 days from now, if you got picked in the drawing or not, which is good because it lets people plan ahead. Anything
And
else?
if not, try and beg some competitors.
Exactly.
A lot of competitors do like sell their passes, so
Yeah.
But yeah, there's that. See you at Worlds.
So yeah, put your name in the hat if you desire. Does anyone know how much the spectator passes were in past years or no? Just curious if the price
not
increase
sure.
actually increased or not. But
I'm
okay.
not
Well, anyway,
sure.
outside of that,
I don't think anyone here has ever paid for one.
nope.
yeah. Okay. Well, there's
Out of
that.
touch.
Just too posh.
Okay, let's talk about the tea topic because I'm sure everyone listening to this podcast just wants to hear about this. I'm just kidding, but maybe some people that's the case.
No, I don't think that's a joke. I think that's for real.
Maybe. Well,
Hello everyone that skipped to the end.
yeah. Yeah, in case you missed it, Steve overslept, but he's here now.
Steve's here now. If you started at the beginning and you skipped.
Yeah. And also, in case you missed it, as reported to me by my mom.
True. Kaz's mom knows as well. Okay, let's talk about this, and
I'll have
maybe
to
if we
watch
have
this
time, we
back.
could do Kaz's corner, and then we'll do the YouTube comments.
Cool.
This is a official kind of like post/letter from Ed Wu, who is one of the leads at Niantic. Was he like the VP or something, or I forgot.
He's the VP
but
of something. I don't know what his official title is, but he is a
Yeah.
VP. I just don't know of what. Maybe it's VP of Pokemon Go. I don't know. But
let me see. Okay, so he let me just pull it up officially because I don't want to misconstrue here. Man, I don't want to log into my what? I had to sign into my LinkedIn to see this.
It doesn't have his title like in the letter he wrote.
Yeah, I know, which
Director
is
software engineering.
okay. Senior vice president, I believe.
Google this other thing. Oh, this is out of date. Well,
Yeah.
spreading misinfo.
Ebu, come on now.
Stop Googling things, you
But
guys.
he SVP, which I believe is senior vice president of Pokemon Go. So pretty much the main person in charge of Pokemon Go outside of like John Hickey, like the highest ranking member, which would make sense because this is coming from him. So the post is on the official Pokemon Go Live.com website titled Pokemon Go moving to a new home with Scopely. And obviously the four of us heard about this prior, but we didn't really know any specific information on it, so it's not really worth reporting on in past episodes unless we have it confirmed, because like it's just speculation at this point. But the rumors were true, and here's what the letter. I'll read through as fast as I can because it's long. It says, trainers, I'm Ed Wu, and I have the privilege of leading the Pokemon Go team at Niantic. Today, I wanted to share some important news. Pokemon Go will be joining Scopely, a video game developer and publisher home to a wide range of leading games and talented teams around the world. As it's always important to me and our entire game team that our community understands and is excited by the long-term vision for this game, I want to share why I believe a partnership with Scopely will be a positive step for all of you and the game's future. First, Pokemon Go is more than just a game to me. It's my life's work. I've been part of Niantic since 2012 and deeply involved in many of our projects. In 2015, I was the original engineer on the Pokemon Go code base, and in 2016, launched a game working around the clock to make sure that hundreds of millions of trainers could discover Pokemon in the real world together. Like many of you, I've had fond memories from 2016, such as bringing home an alpha build in my to my then 2-year-old daughter, who intuitively and enthusiastically became the first young trainer to ever throw a Pokeball in our game. As an engineer, I've watched the code I've written for Pokemon Go change people's lives drastically for the better. That includes my own family, from relatives improving their health from exercising while playing the game, to hearing so many members of our community recount how they've met the love of their lives through playing Pokemon Go and experiencing the incredible real-life community it fosters. That's why I'm very excited about today's announcement. Here are a few reasons why I am confident about the road ahead. So a few bullet points. Scopely expressed a deep admiration for this community and our team. I have every belief Pokemon Go will further flourish as part of Scopely, not only into its second decade, but for many more years to come, under the mission of discovering Pokemon in the real world and inspiring people to explore together. Our new partnership, along with our decade-long partnership with the Pokemon Company, means we can maintain this long-term focus. Scopely fully believes in our mission and ongoing goal to create the best Pokemon Go experience possible. Their focus will be to support our team, providing resources to continue delivering the gameplay you all know and love. And you can read more on their blog, which we'll get to. The entire Pokemon Go team is staying together through this partnership. The same people who have been guiding and building the game for many years, will continue doing what we love. We've always continued. We're always continually adding to the game. Raid battles, friends, Go Battle League, routes, Dynamax, Gigantamax, and of course, Pokemon Go Fest and our live events, which I look forward to continuing to do for many years to come. Scopely empowers their game teams as autonomous groups to go after the roadmaps that they've inspired to pursue and what each team believes is best for the player experience. This approach is extremely appealing to us at Niantic Games. I've spoken to a number of game leaders at Scopely who have given me a great confidence in how the company enables each game to independently develop and creatively thrive. This is kind of getting kind of long. Anyway, we'll be joining a broader organization dedicated to games. Yeah, and I'm trying to see if there's anything really salient here. And it
Maybe
says,
just read this last bullet point.
yeah, or these. Well, I'll just say these last two paragraphs. I will say that Pokemon Go will remain the same. I won't say Pokemon Go will remain the same because it's always been a work in progress, but how we create and evolve it will remain unchanged. And I hope that we can make the experience even better for all of you. I have so much gratitude for the incredible joy of serving hundreds. Okay. Anyway, the main.
I think it comes down to 2 bullet points, which is 1, the game is moving over to someone new, and 2, they're keeping the Niantic team that was working on the game.
And they're still
now,
working with Pokemon, the Pokemon Company.
Yeah.
Which they kind of
Right.
have to because it's their IP.
Yeah, and like if you want to know more, and I would suggest if you have the time, there was like 2 different articles on Scopely's site about the sale, which I think are worth reading. And then there's also an interview that Game Press did with Michael Staronka, and I don't remember the other guy's name. So if you're interested a little more about what might be to come, I would suggest reading those on your own time. We're obviously not going to sit here and read them because we'll be here forever. But I did think they were interesting and helpful reads, just to get us a little bit of a better sense of what to potentially expect moving forward.
Yes. So a few things. Obviously, no company's gonna buy Pokemon Go or these products from Niantic unless they don't think it could make them money, right? So yes, Ed Wu obviously saying they believe in our vision, mission, all that stuff. You know what they believe? They probably believe they could also make some money. Otherwise, they wouldn't believe in any of this other stuff, right? So not to say that what Ed Wu is saying is not true, but that is obviously going to be a big factor there. Because I think, did they say how much they spent for 3.5 billion? A lot of money.
something like that,
3.5 billion.
That's a lot of money for Pokemon Go, and obviously they got Pikmin Bloom and Monster Hunter now and all that stuff. So, but Pokemon Go is probably the
so
big
that's
chunk of that for them.
I mean, Pokemon is the most money making, like the biggest money making franchise like on the planet. Like just as a whole, Pokemon has a dedicated fan base that will consistently spend money.
Pokemon itself, yes. Pokemon Go, maybe when they had raid packs that were unlimited, but these days,
yeah, no. I know. My point is just that it's not really. I don't know. It doesn't seem like that risky, especially considering out of the games that they mentioned, Pokemon Go, like Pikmin Bloom and Monster Hunter, whatever. I think Pokemon Go has to be the one that's like making more money.
Oh no, I agree with you there. I do think that there could be some risk there because if you recall, what was it, a year ago or so, they had all these layoffs for Niantic. People don't usually get laid off if the company's flourishing in the green when it comes to the profit side of things, right? And I'm not sure, like, obviously they like cut back on some other projects, I think, that they were doing. Like they had like that NBA like game, whatever, and all the stuff.
I mean, that I think has less to do with Pokemon Go even than it does with like Niantic as a
Sure,
company.
sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
Like,
I
But
think-
they definitely cut
I think-
people that I know that worked at Niantic for Pokemon Go.
oh well,
So again, like I don't know the finances of Niantic and all that stuff, but I saw articles relating to like their quarterly earnings and all this stuff, and it didn't look great. And a lot of it did seem to line up with the remote raid pass nerfs and limitations, which I've said like a million times in this podcast, like absolutely business decision in my opinion. Bless you for the for actual like revenue purposes, but
yeah.
under
Hey.
new leadership and a new company, that might change.
It's true.
Maybe Scopely's plan is just to remove the remote raid limit.
bring back remote raid passes.
That would be a good start. That would be a
For
good
cheaper.
start.
That would be.
I mean, I don't
unlimited.
know. We'll see what they do, but it seems like a no-brainer to me. Make them more money and buy goodwill with the player base right off the bat.
Yeah, right off the
Um,
bat. Right off
and
the
like-
bat.
Mhm.
And the thing is, like, a lot of people, and we can get into this a little more later in the discussion, but a lot of people are worried about like them over monetizing the game. But like, they could do something like just lifting or increasing the remote raid limit, and like that's a way to monetize the game that people would be more than happy with.
Yeah.
I do get why people are
People are-
concerned though, because they look at the other games from Scopely and they're like
Mhm.
heavily monetized, right? I know like Monopoly Go is one of their examples they mentioned on their blog, which sure sounds good and all, but if you look at the people that actually talk about Monopoly Go, it's not. They don't speak of it in the highest of lights.
Right. Yeah, I think on that note too, like it just depends how they do it as well, because I think a lot of their games have a lot of like watch an ad for something as well, which like if it's
Mhm.
implemented poorly would be frustrating. It could drive people away. But like I've seen some people talking chatter saying like, if it was like watch an ad for an extra free daily orange raid pass, I would be okay for that. Or if it was watch an ad for a free like a 6th GBL set, I would be okay with that. So like I think if it's optional and giving the opportunity for more, but we get to keep the same like free daily stuff we've come to expect, I would potentially be okay with that. It just depends how they implement it.
Honestly,
Well,
I don't think we see ads in Pokemon Go. I think that the Pokemon IP is going to be too locked down to let ads come into it, because there's not ads in any of their other properties across
Yeah.
any of their
True,
developers.
that's
It
valid
just
for sure.
feels like
And
I
also-
really doubt it.
We've kind of
Personally.
made jokes about it before since we cover all the events all the time, but like I think that Niantic has, as kind of like cash grabby as it can feel, I think that Niantic has introduced a lot of ways to provide, for more expenses to come from players, like with constantly having ticketed events, like a bonus ticket for events, like, oh, you'll get better things if you buy this ticket. And now introducing events like tours, safari zones, and go fests, and like having both global and in-person experiences, and having multiple tickets, multiple avenues from both. Like I think that Niantic has already started paving that pathway where, well, there won't be necessarily ads, but there will be a lot more ways for you to pay to play.
Yeah, I think typically too. Something I heard someone else say, and this is about a different, completely other game, not even Niantic or Pokemon Go, was that they were seeing that this one game was doing a lot to monetize a lot more things in their game, and they're usually telltale signs of them selling, because they need to reassure the potential buyers that this is a game that could make money for them, right? If they were to spend a huge amount of money, which would make sense if you look at the past year's events. There's like a ticket for everything, there's global events for everything, stuff like that. Like without actually bringing back remote raid passes, they're doing a lot to monetize aspects of the game, which I personally, again, don't mind. I don't think tickets are that like pay to win or anything, but it's like a nice little bonus. But I think that would make sense given all that stuff.
Mhm.
And again, no company's going to spend $3.5 billion just to be in the red forever. Like they're going to try to make that money back, right? But at the same time too, no company's going to sell their company for all that money if they think they personally can make more. And clearly Niantic doesn't think that's the case, or Niantic leadership, right? So It's
Or
hard to
they
say
have
if that's the
different
case.
priorities. Because I think it is worth noting that this sale is for Pokemon Go, Pikmin Blue, Monster Hunter Now, along with Campfire and Wayfarer. So that's what's
What
being
happened to
sold.
that other game? What happened to Ingress? Is it still around?
That's what I'm. Yeah.
I'm
So
pretty sure
so
Ingress
so Ingress,
will still be a
and
Niantic thing.
Ingress and Peridot, which are like two like solely Niantic games, are being kept, and they're rolling it over into some like Niantic. I don't remember the name of it, like Niantic AR or something. So they're keeping those games, and presumably, like they might also just be turning their focus to more AR stuff and a little bit less game development stuff. Which like we've talked about time and time again, how it feels like Niantic's priority is on AR and like they're not an actual game developer. So like it
Yeah.
certainly could very well be a money thing. I'm sure that's part of it, but it could also be sort of a focus thing as well. Which is like
I could see both sides of it.
and I've
Sorry,
seen
Tristan, go ahead.
yeah, you're good. I've seen a lot of posts online with like very like varying tones and feelings towards this. Some people are excited because we're getting away from Niantic. Some people think this is the end of Pokemon Go because Scopely is a bad company and they over monetize. I think in reality we're going to be somewhere in between. There's definitely some reasons to be cautious, be nervous, be worried, but I do think there are some promising elements as well. In my mind, the promising elements are A, the game is going to an actual game developer. So, because Niantic was primarily an AR company that sort of got into game development, but
Yeah.
going to an actual game developer, I think that could be promising. The fact that they're keeping together like the Pokemon Go team, I think is good. So there's not massive turnover. And the fact that we'll see what happens, but something I noticed throughout like the Niantic post as well as the Scopely posts was this sort of buzzword of more resources. And if Scopely is willing to sort of put more resources into the game, hopefully that means, more developers, more dev time. I think that could be a good thing.
Dude, let's bring
So
back those dev
again,
diaries, man.
Yeah,
so,
well, that
I'm
kind of leads into what I was gonna say. Like, I think that while there are a lot of ways which this could become an annoying, negative thing for the game, I also think, like you, that there are a lot of ways that it could be beneficial as well if they lend actual resources to developing some of these aspects of the game, like Go Battle League, for example.
I think also at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who says what online. No one knows. No one
Nobody
knows.
knows.
of
Like no one
course,
knows how it's going to go. No one at Scopely knows. No one at Niantic knows how it's going to go because it hasn't happened. Michael
Mhm.
Staronka doesn't know. Ed Wu doesn't know. This is what they want for the game, right? But they don't know if it's going to
yeah,
turn out great or not, and we don't know either. No one knows. It hasn't happened. I
right,
know what they want, right? And at the end of the day, it just depends on if people running Scopely want the same things or not, and also not even just
right,
what you want. Can you make it happen? It doesn't matter. Like if everyone wants the same thing, you can't make it happen. It doesn't matter, right? So it doesn't
yeah, yeah,
change the
yeah.
aspect, which is why I, personally have held my tongue, I guess, or opinion on it because it's hard to say. Yes, there's like you could go doom and gloom or you could go super optimistic, but you also at the end of the day you could just theorize about the million ways this can go, and nothing might like it
Yeah.
could
I
just go
mean,
wildly different. So we hope for the best,
Mhm.
but this is obviously people have
yeah,
reservations stuff, and again, whether they hyper monetize past games or not and made it, less enjoyable doesn't mean that they'll do it for Go, right? And like Steve said too, there's not really a thing with Pokemon game. Like the thing that makes me feel good about, or not make me feel good, but makes me feel a little bit
There's a bit
better
of hope.
about this, huh? What?
Hopeful.
yeah,
Hopeful, yeah,
reassured.
or not even hopeful, just like not as doom and gloom. Is that this is Pokemon's IP, and they have a very tight grip on the stuff that their games can do, right? Like we no one says Pokemon die on like Pokemon Go broadcasters and stuff like that. You know why? Because
Right.
Pokemon don't die, because it's part of the branding. We can't just Niantic can just say that, be like, I don't really care what the Pokemon company
Right.
says. No, they have to, right? It's their IP. They can pull it from them, right? And I know that Scopely will take it equally as seriously, because they didn't just spend $3.5 billion just to have it go down the drain, right? So
Right. There's going to be some level of oversight and say from the Pokemon Company in terms of the branding and sort of the direction they want the game to go as well. So it's not going to be solely Scopely calling all the shots on their own. Like, certainly Scopely will be the game developer and will have a lot of say and autonomy, but they're not able to sort of do things single-handedly because the Pokemon Company will have say. And I will say too, Caleb did mention Michael, and I will say the interview that Michael did with GoHub, Michael did seem fairly optimistic, which also, I mean, I wouldn't expect him to do an interview and be pessimistic, but like the fact that he did seem optimistic is also reassuring. Um,
hey,
and again, sort of back to the priorities thing as well. Like, I think under sort of new leadership and a new company that is a game dev, like I would probably expect Niantic to not, or it wouldn't be Niantic anymore, but like Pokemon Go to not spend so much focus and dev time on AR and focus more on other components of the game, which I think is promising. Because like, yeah, sure, some of the like being able to take AR pictures is kind of cool, but like the majority of Go players don't really care about the AR features, and we just care about the game functioning better, not having app crashes all the time when you're playing Go Tour or Go Fest, having PvP functioning better with less one turn lag and glitches and lag in general. Like, so if like the Pokemon Go team does in fact get more resources and does hopefully get sort of a different focus for their time and efforts, which hopefully will involve more on, PvP as well as other features of the game and less focus on AR. I think that could be a big positive too.
yeah, I think, yeah, I like everything you all are saying, and I think the other aspect to it is there's I'm okay with like the fact that they are keeping a lot of the same Niantic staff together, but I will say too, one of my not so like positive takes is that I'm really worried that the things that are holding the game back right now, obviously like this is subjective in my opinion, but the things that are holding back the game right now, in my opinion, are decisions made by people that work on the game right now. So keeping everyone, like sometimes it might be good to bring a new perspective, and I'm sure they'll probably hopefully add more to the team as well, right? And
Yeah.
maybe that will help get things along, and maybe someone will come around and be like, yo, what is up with this remote rate passing? No one wants this thing. Dude, think about this. When they get remote rate passes, right, that are limited over 2 years ago, right? At this point, I think people still are not over it. You know that's a bad decision when people still are not over it. This is not like a people just like woke up the next day and slept on it and was like, all right, we're good. So it's just, yeah, that's something to think on, Scopely employees. So
I mean,
hey,
presumably
if
there's
there's
no.
new Scopely employees listening, or please Niantic ones, nice to meet you. Hope you listen to the community on some of these things. Obviously, not everything we say is always going to be right and stuff, but it's at least our take on it. Yeah, what were we gonna say,
I mean,
Tristan?
I think
Or
that is a good point, but I will say, presumably there won't be John Hankey at least, and again, we don't know the dynamics of Niantic, but like, we don't know how much,
oh,
say or
read
veto power
Glassdoor.
Hankey had.
Read Glassdoor, and then you'll see. The general thought process is a lot of people are not happy with some of the leadership within Niantic. And it's holding, like, even some of the engineers and stuff are like, hey, we made all these features that would be great for the players, and we just keep getting vetoed and shot down, and then we just quit because, like, what's the point? We can't make a difference in this game.
Well, that's something we've talked about in the past. It seems like whenever, in particular, like John Henke would make a statement, it always seemed like the text and tone was misaligned with what the community like wanted, like how the community actually plays the game versus like their vision of the game. So I guess the big question we'll have to see is, now that the game is moving into sort of this other, being folded into this other company, is like, is the vision still going to stay the exact same, or are they more open to change?
Yeah.
Right.
The company, this is something that Zoe Two Dots did in her video. She compared, the what Niantic sort of big pillars are versus Scopely's, and Niantic's is very much outdoors, leaning in towards that no remote raid pass sort of stuff, and Scopely is a lot more about people playing the game, being part of communities both local and global, which sort of is like, oh, remote raid pass. So I think that is sort of a correct take potentially, in that I think that the priorities of Pokemon Go are going to change. Potentially, well, you could say potentially in ways that are beneficial to players. I think what might potentially more beneficial to enjoyment of the game, however, I think the truth of it probably is, like, the more remote raids there are, technically on a tiny little scale, the less healthy the game becomes in terms of physical health. Like, obviously, pushing people to go outside with every event and whatnot, it does something for you. But
the thing is, there's still going to be like aspects of the game where you do have to go in person.
Yeah.
Like the Dynamax and Gigantamax remaining in person. Shadow raids remaining potentially in
honestly,
person,
My take has always been, if the game's good,
and also events, like live events.
Live events. If the game's good enough,
We'll see.
people go out and play, right? In person.
Yeah.
Like, yes, even if you
Right.
do all your raids from home, if you want to play the other aspects of the game, you have to go outside. And if the events are actually good enough, or the incentives are good enough, people would do it. If you don't make the game good enough, people aren't going to do it. It doesn't matter how much you manipulate, like, what they can and can't do. People are just not going to raid as much if they can't raid remotely, right? It's not
Also, carrot not
Yeah.
stick. Like, they've given some good bonuses for in-person raiding. Like, you can tune that up even a little more, such that people are incentivized to raid in person. But if you can or don't want to, you still have the option to raid remotely.
Also, don't do carrot then stick, right? That's the thing that frustrates the most, is they give us the carrot and then just take it back and give us a stick on top of it. I'm like, what? Like,
Yeah, no.
This is like, it's like so backwards, Like, you can't give us a good side and then just go like the 100, 180, right? If you do
Right.
carrot and then no carrot, it's okay. But I just,
again,
yeah.
it's like, do you want more people playing the game or less? If you just
Scopely,
want more people,
do you want to sell the game yourself to another company in 6-7 years, or do you want to?
If you don't, if you don't even have time for like if you don't even have like the time and resources to like encourage people to play, then you're not going to have anyone spending money either.
Yeah. Look,
will say
there's already too
too-
much competition in the gaming space these days. Like, if you don't make a good game, like, people are just gonna play a different game. That's how it is. You can't expect people to come back to the game. And yeah, we're gonna say.
I will say too, I wouldn't be surprised if we sort of stick to the status quo that we know for maybe 6 to 12 months, because Niantic sort of set out a roadmap and a plan for upcoming stuff, right? And you also have a transition period with Scopely sort of learning the ropes of how the game works and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if we sort of, what we're used to is the same for 6 to 12 months, and then maybe at the like year and a half mark, Scopely starts making more wholesale changes.
Well, this will be my last thing I say on this. I don't think that's the case. I think maybe like not like massive changes, but here's my prediction. If they're going to try to monetize more and do a, like, earn some of the money back and stuff and change things around, then they're going to bring back unlimited remote raid passes within like 2 months max, I would say. Because here's the thing, that shouldn't be hard for them to turn on, because they had that. They don't have to make a new feature. That's already been a thing, right? If they don't do it within 2 months, I don't think they're doing it anytime soon or ever, right? And that's not a good sign. But in my mind, that's the easiest way to just rev up revenue without changing anything. Easy to just turn that clock back or turn that switch back on and win the good graces of players without having to invest like a bunch of resources into making this a feature, right? It's already a thing.
Right.
And my guess is if they're going to, within 2 months, it's going to be there. I could be wrong. 2 months later, if we don't, I'm going to say right now, 2 months later, if we don't have remote raid passes, people are probably going to be upset, and I don't think they're going to bring it back.
My question on that though is, do we like is this like, did the sale already go through, or is it an agreement for a sale that's not going through for a month or two? Like, do we know when like the sale is actually happening and then this transition is happening?
I don't think
Because
I've seen anything.
that's
with
something
dates.
that is very unclear to me. Because like
I think
I
if
see
they
what
didn't
you're
already sign
saying,
off
but,
on
like,
stuff, then yeah, I think if they didn't already sign off on stuff, then they wouldn't have made this announcement.
Yeah.
right,
It's
right.
going
But I'm
through.
saying like
I
no,
think
But
I
if
know
they're
it's
on
going
the
deal.
through, but
I
I'm
think
saying
the deal is done.
right,
I
the
think
deal
the
is
deal
done.
is
But I'm
done, and
saying,
perhaps
is it
money has been
happening
exchanged publicly.
tomorrow, or is it happening a month
No.
from now, or is it happening 6 months from now? Like when it happens is definitely gonna have an impact on stuff too.
They haven't announced it, but I also don't think they put out all these publications and like oh, here's our blog post on it, here's our announcement on it. They don't announce it if it's not happening soon. Because there's no way they announce it and it's like 2 months later Scopely finally takes over. That seems wild to me. People's attention spans are already too short for starters, and two, I don't think they'll drag a deal on for that long. Because like why not start? You know, it's like it's not like they need John Hankey to like clean out his office. Like but and even if that's the case, that won't take that long. And there's no hate on John Hankey or anything. I'm just saying, like, I don't know how many decisions were even on his end, and I think a lot of it was probably upper leadership, not just him vetoing a bunch of stuff. I don't know, but just you can read Glassdoor on Niantic yourself to see. But
yeah, I mean, we'll have to see
well,
too. Yeah, that's yeah, just like how much was Hankey versus other senior leadership, and which of that other senior leadership is staying with the Pokemon Go team versus not. But yeah, we'll just have to see. I think, I don't know about you guys, I'd say I'm cautiously optimistic. I could definitely see things regressing, but I'm hopeful that things will stay similar, if not improve for the most part. But we'll just have to see what happens.
My more pessimistic view, which is also optimistic view, is that I don't think the game could regress that much anymore. So worst case scenario, we see a few ads, which would be really annoying. People would be outraged and they'll probably take it off within like a week. But I don't think the game can get a lot worse, I guess. Not to say it's terrible right now. It's just that there's not a lot that's innovative with it. If I'm going to be fully honest, we've had the same GBL system ever since inception. Like GBL as a whole should be just like revamped at this point. We've mentioned like a million ideas on the podcast and from the comments. The fact that like just the few of us and our listeners can come up with this many suggestions and nothing has been even thought of on their end, it's not a good sign. So
you better hope we got some new Scopely employees listening.
Look, like I said, it's a pessimistic view, but also optimistic view is that it's only up from here potentially. So that's my view, at least. Anyway,
what about you guys, Stephen Kaz? How are you guys feeling? Just general sentiment.
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think I tend to be more optimistic. Like, I hope that this brings about some good changes to sort of aspects of the game that we have talked about have sort of remained stagnant for a little while. And I hope that it brings about, positive change in the way that we all play the game, that we can play it in a way that makes more sense to us as a global community as opposed to just a local one, I'd like to believe that that's possible, but we'll have to wait and see.
We'll find out.
I know Steve's not
like,
as
I will say nothing until
yeah. Steve might have some stocks in Scopely, that's why he can't say too much. He'd be like, I'm part owner right here. Well, it's about to go down first before it goes up, but
yeah, I'm about to lose $3.5 billion.
Yeah. Steve's like moving to a new home.
I know Steve's been playing a lot of Pokemon Unite these days too, so he's like, if this game fails, I'm a top 12 team from Oceania at least. Question:
Debbie and the Pebbles, baby.
How many teams are there in Oceania, out of curiosity?
On the entire leaderboard, it might be about 20.
It's not bad. It's not 12.
Top 12.
It's not 12.
Posted on the
I thought the
official
answer was
account.
either 12 or 13.
No. What do you play in Unite? Actually, I'm just curious. I never asked you this.
I'm a speedster kind of guy. I like the Darkrai. I like the Gengar, Zorak.
Okay.
Let me zoom around in the jungle.
Okay. Whee! All right. A little main character syndrome. I get it. I respect it.
Yeah. I just need that self-importance,
We all do. All right. Well, that wraps up for our episode. We'll talk about the comments next week because we're running low on time. But drop your comments down below if you have any comments. I feel like next week's comment section is going to be even longer. But hey,
Hopefully they don't stack on a bunch of more events so that we have time to actually.
Well, we skipped a bunch of events this week, so we'll see.
I know. I know.
Well, there's not going to be a lot of championship series to talk about, so that's
true.
helpful.
That's
It's
true.
just India qualifiers. So.
Yeah.
I will start filling up the bucket of water for Marcus. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Thanks all for tuning in and listening to us rant. And if you're a first-time listener from Scopely, welcome. We just give
We
honest
look
feedback.
forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, and if you want to be a guest if you want to be a guest on the podcast, let me know. Reach out to us or reach out to the Biocast podcast on X or Caleb Peng on X, and we'll figure something out. But they're probably busy doing other stuff, so that is what it is. Anyway, have a good one, and we'll catch you all next week. Peace.